What's up, and welcome to the Nothing But Net Worth podcast, where we have conversations with prominent coaches, athletic directors, and NIL athletes discussing critical topics around financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and much, much more. My name is Hassan Thomas, former student athlete and current promoter of all things financial wellness. And today, we have former women's collegiate basketball player and current director of football recruiting operations at Virginia Tech, Miss Ivy Eller. How are you? How are you, superstar? How you doing?
Doing so good. I'm grateful to be here and super excited to tap in with you today.
Yes, we're going to rock out and have a great time. And how we normally like to start off our show, well, first, let me shout out Coach Brian B for bringing us here, for connecting us. Great guy. He gave us a great interview, and I know you're going to do the same. So we're going to have a great time. So how we normally like to start off our show, we started off with a segment called the Financial Coin Toss. I'm going to ask you a few either or questions just to see where your head's at, all right? All right, bet. So the first question is, which one do you think is more important for these athletes? How much money they can make or how much money they can keep?
I think how much money they can keep is extremely important. I think that's something that a lot of student athletes are recognizing now that NIL isn't as like flashy and new.
Yeah.
That money can come fast, but it also can go quickly. So
Mm,
what they're investing it into, what they're putting their money into the savings accounts for, it comes back to really help them. I've seen it on both sides of the spectrum of it really
yeah.
help student athletes out, and they're able to depend on it after the fact, and use it for draft training, anything like that, to depend on
Mm,
that. And then I've seen it on the opposite spectrum where it blows and you see them with fancy cars, fancy clothes, and by the end of that season, it's looking like I need a job. So
yeah.
I've seen it on both sides.
Oh man, I'm definitely glad that you stated that point, because I believe it's about longevity at this point and
Oh yeah.
sustainability. Because I graduated in 2020, and when I came out, I was building my personal brand, building my business, so I was focused and locked in. But I get on Instagram, I get on social media, I'm seeing my friends going to Turks and Caicos, they go to Dominican Republic, because you got to keep in mind there was the PPP loans around that time,
And they hit.
the stimulus the stimulus around that time. So everybody was popping. Everybody was popping. So, 2022 come around, 2023, and I look back up, the same friends that was traveling and popping that stuff, they're not doing the same thing anymore, because that PPP money, the stimulus, all of that has ran dry. So they didn't keep none of that money. So that kind of like showed me like it's about longevity. It's about being able to sustain being lit, not just being lit for 1 year, kind of sustaining that.
It's a lifestyle you got to uphold.
100%, 100%. So let's go ahead and get into more of your story, because I feel like every athlete, every entrepreneur, they have that certain, moment where they can either go pro, go to the next level, or they have to find another career path.
Yeah.
So kind of take us back to your defining moment in life that put you on the path to becoming director of recruiting at, schools like UCF, and, most recently your transition to Virginia Tech. Kind of give us that defining moment that you had.
Yeah. So takes us all the way back to 2020. Um, it was like it was so long ago, but for me, it feels like it. So, I've been working in sports
Mm,
for about 4 to 5 years now. It started in 2020. I played collegiate basketball for 2 years at a JUCO. Absolutely loved it.
okay.
I knew I needed the attitude adjustment before I went to a 4 year. Definitely needed to be humbled a little bit. So I was extremely grateful for that opportunity. Um,
Uh-huh.
was going into my sophomore season at my JUCO, was in December. Played in a game and came up on a shot, came down, had a really bad knee injury, ended up tearing my
Oh
ACL,
man.
PCL, and meniscus.
Yeah.
Um, so tore about every ligament except for my LCL in my knee.
And that was 2020?
Yes, that was
Okay.
2020. And I was on my way to the University of Charlotte. That's where I wanted to continue to play. That's where I had been accepted into school, and that's where I wanted to call home. So, ultimately 2020 was the year of what? COVID.
COVID, yes.
COVID. So I'm facing an extensive knee surgery in February, and COVID hits in March. And so
Hmm.
my process, it took a lot longer than expected. It took a lot of soul searching for me. It wasn't me giving up playing ball, but ball being taken away from me from an injury that I just couldn't recover from the way I needed to.
Hmm.
So, spent my whole entire junior year online at home, had to do my own PT, had to do my own everything to
Yeah.
rehabilitate myself back to where I needed to be. Once I did that, I realized I got to figure out what I'm going to do. What am I going to work? The ball stopped. It hit
Hmm.
like as fast as it came, it went. So once that ball stopped, I had to recognize what am I going to do with my life.
Yeah.
I knew that I loved sports. I knew that I wanted to work in sports, but I couldn't work in basketball. It was too emotional tie. It was too much of an emotional tie for me.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I know football. My brothers play football. I know football like the back of my hand. I'm a football girly, and
Okay. That's where it
when
came
I got
from.
into
Got
it,
you.
I got into it. I ended up messaging the director of on campus at UNC Charlotte on LinkedIn. That's when LinkedIn became popular too. So shout out LinkedIn. Um,
Yes. LinkedIn
and
is huge for our generation. They
it
sleep on it right
is.
now.
No, it is. I messaged her and brought in on an interview the next week, and next thing you know, I was a student intern at the University of Charlotte as a recruiting intern, and so that's where my
Wow.
journey really, really started. From there, I mean, I soaked up the recruiting world like no other. I was literally
Hmm.
like a sponge to it, from connection making to being able to not necessarily analyze film, but recognize what these players were doing and how their rankings are now kind of coming into play. And so, really
Yeah.
getting that backside of it was really vital for how I was able to just kind of mesh it all together and be where I am now. So, um,
Hmm.
started out as a student. By my senior year, I took over as the director of on campus recruiting for Charlotte while I
While
was
you
still,
were still a student?
yeah. And
That
so
is crazy.
that opportunity in itself was groundbreaking for me. That
Hmm.
was really where I recognized, is this the path that I want to be on? How much further can I go?
Yeah.
I've always been a believer that my cup can never be too full. And so I've just continued to build and build and build as much as possible on top of that. So, um,
Hmm.
graduated in December of 22. Was obviously had a full-time job lined up right outside of college at the University of Charlotte. Stayed
Yeah.
there for about 8 months as the full-time director, and then transitioned to the Central Florida. And that was another monumental experience in my career. I was
Yeah.
able to take over as the on campus, and then within 5 months in, I was given the opportunity to step in as the interim director of recruiting, as well as taking on the director of on campus position. So
Wow.
doing two roles in one was not easy. Definitely drinking from a water hose, but about managing your time,
Yeah.
managing what you can do, and doing it with a smile on your face. My support system was great. My support staff was great. They helped me get through it. And that's where I've been able to kind of work my way up. And now I'm here at Virginia Tech, 5 days strong.
Yeah.
And so
For real though.
I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. Starting out as a student, that is what, it excelled me to come through. That's what
Hmm.
pushed me through.
So first of all, got to give you your flowers. Give you your flowers for your journey. We actually have a very similar journey. My senior year, I played safety my first 3 years, and I switched to running back. So I was, hitting people, and then I switched to get hit, and of
Yeah.
course, that's when I got hurt.
Yeah.
Tore my meniscus like you did. I didn't tear all those other things, but I did tear my meniscus my senior year, and couldn't play anymore. And that's where I was actually writing my senior thesis, my senior research paper over financial education. My cousin was like, "Hey, I think you should start a podcast." And I was like, "A podcast?" And then from there, I had my surgery in December of 2019 going into 2020. And I kept it a secret from everyone. And then for my birthday, I actually released it. So that's a gem for anybody listening. If y'all gonna release something, release it on your birthday, because that's when people like people like you a little bit more on your birthday. And I want to know, from your journey so far, what do you credit your accelerated success to? Is it the education? Is it the networking piece? what would you say has been like one of the biggest factors to your early success?
I'd say that networking is extremely vital. Knowing
Mm-hmm.
the people that you work with, building connections, has definitely been a really good stepping stool for me to use. Looking now, I'm looking back, I've been with four coaching staffs since I've
Yeah.
started. Four completely different coaching staffs. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of names. That's a lot of networking. And those coaches, those support staff, they have been some of my best and biggest advocators for where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be in the position I am now without some of the help from my support staff and previous coaches. So that networking is huge. It's not
Yeah.
about what all you know, because you can always learn more. You can always do more. And that comes with time, and that comes with experience and trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that these coaches and support staff have in you to know that she can handle that job. That's been monumental for me.
Got you. Got you. So that networking piece and then building that trust with the actual people that you work with through your actions, through communication. And I feel like, especially for around our age group, when we all went through COVID, a lot of us were at home, as you mentioned, and we weren't having those face-to-face interactions. So I feel like for our generation has kind of suffered in that face to face, those soft skills. So that's a very, very important piece, being able to communicate with people, kind of just being personable. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It's very huge. And as you mentioned, going through your story, you know, what advice would you give the young folks that are listening who may get the injury, who realize, okay, maybe the next level, women's basketball, pro volleyball, football, NFL, that's not the next level for me. What advice could you give those college athletes that are going to have to deal with that transition to kind of finding a real job, finding a real role, or starting their own business? What advice would you have for them?
yeah. I think that's something that, it hits really home for me. I think my biggest piece of advice is to let them know it's okay if that ball stops. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay if you have to put those cleats down. You're more than the sport that you play. I think that's something that a lot of student athletes get caught up in. You are so
Yeah.
much more than the sport that you're playing. You're using that sport to get to your success. It's not the other way around.
Mm.
So being able to use your sport that you're in to set yourself up for success, not the opposite. That is something that you have to realize so early on, or it'll eat you up.
Yeah.
And unfortunate for some people, like in my case, like in your case, when that ball does stop, when those cleats have to be taken off, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
Have a plan. You have to be prepared. My mom always says, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail.
Come on.
That's a staple. That's a staple. You have to make sure that you are prepared in all areas,
Yeah.
for your success, or you'll be looking. And when you're looking, you're gonna be lost. And we don't got time to be lost. We're too guided
Facts.
for that. And so you have to make sure you're prepared, and you have to be okay with however things happen. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
trust that the process is what it's going to be, and all you can do is prepare yourself for anything to come, but just set yourself up for success. Set yourself up
Mm-hmm.
for success is my biggest.
I love it. I love it. So setting up yourself for success, using your sport as
Hmm.
kind of that vehicle to
Yeah.
take you to your success.
Yes.
So I interviewed a high school player who's going to go to Tuskegee University in Alabama,
Okay.
HBCU, and he told me he chose that school because they have one of the best. He not only, they give him a 4-hour scholarship to go play football, but he wants to be a nurse after,
Right.
and they have one of the best nursing programs. So it was so cool to hear a high schooler, be thinking about, okay, yes, I'm a football player, but I'm also, as you said, more than my sport.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's going to use that sport to, of course, try to make it to the next level and give it all he has and, make a lot of money through NIL and hopefully be able to stable for himself, be stable for his family. But if that doesn't work out, like you said, he has that backup plan where he can now, okay, I'm at the best school for nursing. I have a degree here. Now I can go get a pretty good job right out of college and start helping myself and helping my family. So I think that's huge.
It is. And congratulates Tim. That's amazing. to look forward. That's big. That's really big.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely as a high schooler, because I wasn't thinking like that
I was lost.
Yeah. No, that's amazing advice. That's amazing advice. And let's go ahead and jump into this NIL talk. Talk about jumping in a portal. Let's go ahead and talk about this NIL, name, image, and likeness. What is your overall thoughts on NIL? Is it good for the game? Is it bad for the game? Kind of give us that.
Working in recruiting, NIL, we're like oil and water.
Uh-oh.
I would say we're like oil and water. And oil and water is not always a bad thing, okay?
Okay.
But I would say that NIL has its perks, but it can be abused in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I think it's changed the game. It's going to continue to change the game. Recruiting from 2020 is not the same recruiting as we have to do now in
Mm-hmm.
2024. So I think it's definitely propelled us forward. 100%. We're moving in the right direction. We're not sure, but as far as for these athletes, I love that they're able to get the props and get the name, like, and image that they're wanting for the sport that they're playing.
Yeah.
They're using it. They're using the game to build success, and I love that. I'm all about that. So I'm a
Mm-hmm.
fan of NIL. I really am. I think it can get political in a sense, but what sport isn't? And so I'm a fan. I can't say that I hate it. So it's not bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so from that recruiting standpoint, where I'm like, NIL needs some regulations and guidelines. Think about it like this. I believe there should be some type of cap on the amount that a coach or coaching staff, a collective can pay a high schooler to come to their school or a transfer portal player to come to their school because say for example the Alabamas, the Kentuckys, the big SEC schools can drop 1.5, 2 million on one position on one player, but the smaller schools that kind of shoots them out of the running. And you're talking about recruiting. At this point, it's not even about recruiting. It's about who has the most money to
Yeah.
spend on that certain player.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, how do you feel about the recruiting process when it comes down to just who has the most money?
Yeah. I mean, it obviously plays a really big part, especially with programs that just don't have the stability that they're needing. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been in situations and been in programs where we're building. We're not to the success rate that we need to be. We're not, established to the fullest. We don't have the old money. We don't have the donors from years and years and decades ago. And so I
Yeah.
think for being in an institution like that, you have to recognize that, NIL, it is a big part. It does make recruiting harder. I can't say it doesn't, but something that plays such a big role in being able to get these kids over the money that they're being offered is the people that they're with.
Mm.
People that are going to be with your kid every single day, son or daughter. The people that are going to be mentoring your son or daughter, showing them
Yeah.
how to be a woman, showing them how to be a man, because eventually that ball is going to stop. And are you going to be instilled with money, or are you going to be instilled with knowledge and wisdom? Which one's it going to be?
Mm.
Be somewhere with both, but in a lot of cases, you're not. You know what I mean? And so you
Yeah.
you see this transfer portal, people are leaving Alabamas, people are leaving these bigger schools to go to smaller schools because of the people that they're surrounding themselves with. So
Mm-hmm.
NIL obviously plays a part, but for these institutions that don't have the ample amount of money that these bigger schools do have, the people that they have in these places plays a role.
Mm-hmm.
It plays a role. They're able to make up for
Ivy, you on here dropping gems. You on
it.
here dropping gems. I can't even lie to you. So when it comes to like the people, how do you on the recruiting side set up and orchestrate those students to really get the experience to experience the coaches, the culture, the staff? Like how do you on that side kind of contribute to that?
Loaded. It's a real loaded question. I hope you want a loaded answer.
Give it to
Um,
us. Give it to us.
they want to know how their kid is going to be developed here, not only as an athlete, but as a
Yeah.
man or a woman. So being able to show them that side of it, it's not all X's and O's. It's not all, what the field looks like or how many photo shoots we can take, but how are you being built? That's something that plays such a big part. So just really being able to schedule it out to where they're hitting academics, player development, how they're even hitting,
Mm-hmm.
their nutrition. Nutrition is humongous. Being in the weight room, it's humongous. And it
For
changes
sure.
how the perspective looks on where they're going. Being able to
Mm-hmm.
meet that head athletic trainer, being able to meet your head dietitian, and just see the connection with everybody on the support staff, it plays a role. Do you want to
For
walk into a
sure.
building and, be on your official visit and it's the position coach out there and that's it? Or do you want to walk into a building and you see the whole entire support staff? You see the whole entire coaching staff. Everybody's welcoming you. Those people play a
Mm-hmm.
huge role. So being able to show everybody's face, being able to show what culture and family orientation you have in that program, it goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. So, like in the perfect world, what would the perfect player development curriculum resources, what would that look like in your perfect world?
Oh, that's big. I mean, player development
Oh yeah,
comes
I'm
from
coming out the
every
dome with these.
single.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it comes from every single angle,
Yeah.
from the basis of your onboarding. Like that in itself, how you're able to get into school, who is guiding you to do that. You'd be
Mm-hmm.
shocked at how many institutions don't have that person holding these parents and kids' hands for gathering their SAT and ACT scores, gathering
Yeah.
their transcripts, making sure these kids are on track while they're still in high school, letting them know, hey, for you to be set up for success, you need to take calc this semester. For you to be set up for success and graduate early, you need to take this. We're doing that in college for high school students.
Mm-hmm.
We are helping them maneuver because they don't always have that guidance. And so, from the ground up,
Yeah.
from onboarding to getting here, moving into your apartment, you these moms and daddies, they don't want to just leave their kids with nobody. You know what I mean? So that trust is so vital for where these kids are going. So
Uh-huh.
all play a part, even onto being into the program. How are you able to help out with your community? How can
Mm-hmm.
you stay connected with your religion? What are those steps that you can do? Player development is a staple in programs. I could definitely see that becoming
Gotcha.
such a bigger portion of programs like recruiting, to continue to build and to
Mm-hmm.
continue to have outlooks for these kids to use, and just to kind of maneuver. That's what it's really going to be, is to help them just maneuver and be successful.
I love it. I love it. So, Miss Ivy, I need you to tell us what is next for you, what should we be expecting from you, and give any final takeaway that you have for the young folks listening here today.
Oh wow. What's next is loaded. Um, I'm not sure what's next as of now. I'm really grateful for the position that I'm in right now, and definitely I'm gonna ride this out until my cup needs to be filled more.
Yeah.
Um, longevity purposes, I'd really love to be in the sports agency world, and I love being able to help kids get to the next level. I love being able to help them progress. I think that's what's next. NIL
Yeah.
and going into the agency world, that's what's next in the marketing for sports. But you have to love what you do in college sports. You have to love being in recruiting. You have to love being an analyst. You have to love being a GA, and sometimes are really crappy. You're not always
Mm-hmm.
going to like it, but loving what you do is so important. Loving what you do and finding that passion, that energy for something that you will wake up and say, man, I'll do this job every single day. And that's really hard to find. So I would just say, continue to find yourself outside of your sport, find
Mm-hmm.
yourself with things that you love. And if it takes away from that sport, then maybe you should self-evaluate and recognize, what more could you pour into, or what is taking that time away from you to be able to pour into yourself.
Yeah.
So just, really lean in and trust the process that you're in, and recognize that, you're so much more than your sport. And how is
Mm-hmm.
it going to help you succeed? The money that you're making, the things that you're doing, how is it setting you up for success? So you have to always protect yourself. You have to always, make sure you are good. But at the end of the day, live while you can, live in that sport while you can, because when that
Mm-hmm.
ball does stop, it's going to hit you quick. And you can either be prepared or you cannot be prepared. And so that I would definitely say, just do what you can. Do what you can.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for coming by and dropping these gems on the folks. I think my biggest takeaway is definitely to set yourself up for success. Don't, wait for anybody to do it for you. Go out there, network, talk to people, actually educate yourself on kind of whatever field that you want to be in, and then go out there and apply yourself and actually do it.
Yes.
So for all my listeners, thank you so much for tapping in with us. Take some of those small gems that we talked about here today, apply them in your life today, and I promise you, over time, there will be large results, and you will see the impact and the true change and transformation.
Yes.
So again, Ivy, thank you so much for rocking out with us.
It was a pleasure.
For our listeners, if you are looking for a podcast to educate yourself, motivate yourself, and inspire yourself to stay in the game and to change it, the Nothing But Net Worth podcast is for you. We'll see you next week.